So this presentation is a design and technology overview. And just to point out, because I'm recording at this point, if I have to stop, then you're going to have a very long session of watching a video back. Okay, so just listen. I will ask questions at times. What is it all about? This is pretty much the whole point to design and technology. What I've done here is given you the main topic areas in this diagram on purpose. The main point to the whole thing is design success. That's what you set out to do. You want to make a design that is successful based on whatever criteria it is. However, to get a successful design, we have these things that impact on it. One of those are the factors affecting design, which is broken down into a few areas, and I'll talk about that a bit later. Emerging technology. The design process in itself can impact on the success of a design, and the innovative approaches or innovation of the design itself. So these all impact on each other as well. Factors will affect whether an emerging technology comes up, because emerging technology in itself is a design. So you get a lot of these sort of convoluted links between each thing. But this is really where we're talking about the whole time. Now, this is probably the largest component of the theory, is the factors affecting design. You would have come across a majority of this in the preliminary course. The first one is the appropriateness of the design solution. Is it actually appropriate? I'm going through with Year 11 at the moment. There is a link to the Year 11 one up on Edmodo, and it looks at a few designs to ask, are they actually appropriate? A great example of one is this demonic-looking gargoyle on the middle of a child's merry-go-round. Looks like something from Nightmares. Is that an appropriate design? The needs. Is there a need? You must have seen that this is one of the main points. Is there a market for it? This affects whether a design can even work from the beginning. It may even affect whether you bother with the design straight from the beginning. Is the design functional? Does it actually work? I'm sure you've come across products in the past which, claim to do something but don't quite work. Aesthetics. That's just asking the question of, does it look good? Is it attractive enough for someone to want to pay money for, or own, or wear, or use? Finance. This is a big one in a lot of industrial areas. Can someone afford to make it, and does that enable people to buy it? The more a product costs to make, the more you have to charge for someone to buy it to even make a profit. Very, very basic economics there, but it's one of the key factors. Ergonomics, is it easy to use? Have you all come across a pair of scissors that feel really bad in your hands? When you're trying to use them, they start wearing into your fingers. Ergonomically, those scissors aren't very good. I would say the stools in this room, from the old electronics room, ergonomically, a bit iffy. The chairs you're sitting in might suit some people, but not others. So ergonomics is that relationship with the design and the person. Work health and safety, can it safely be created? And there's a whole lot of designs out there that can't be done because there's no safe way of doing it. Obviously, emerging technology is enabling this. So now I'm linking in one of those cyclical arguments here. Emerging technologies, such as robots and robotics, is allowing us to do things that humans couldn't safely do before. So that has an impact. Quality. Is the quality high? Obviously, you can get a functional design, but it's pretty low quality. Is it durable, efficient? Those sorts of things. Short-term and long-term environmental consequences. Now, this is becoming bigger and bigger in that the environment politically is having a big impact on things, particularly internationally. So the environmental impact of a design will need to be considered. Obsolescence. How soon does this design become redundant? Anyone here still got an iPhone 2? Did someone put their hand up? I thought Chrissy did for a moment there. But it's become redundant. You can't use them anymore. They don't support it. They're not fast enough for the technology that's around. So obsolescence does impact on a design's success, or at least the design's life. The life cycle analysis, you would have seen this in your case study. It's developed and used to assess the impact of production, so the whole production process. So the raw materials, the processing, manufacture, distribution, repair, maintenance, disposal, on society, the environment, and the economy. That's the life cycle analysis. And it's bringing in all these factors again. Trends and cultural impacts. How do these differ between groups in society and over time? When you look at different cultures overseas, there's certain designs that you would never see there, particularly garments that you see in Australia on their beaches. I'm sure there's places within the Middle East and Africa which you would never ever see it. But that's a cultural difference. That's a cultural expectation, and it's something that impacts on the design. In America, they don't allow certain products to be used in the manufacture of things that we allow to be used. So there's differences between countries that you would consider being the same. All of these impact on the ability to do the design. There are also trends. Trends are very temporal. You can have something which is popular one year, then the next, not at all. And someone's just invested in going, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon, and we get our product out there and everyone's sick of it. So they don't succeed. You look at trends at the moment, there's a lot of ethical trends happening, environmentally conscious and sociologically conscious. So if you look at the Oxfam buying goods that aren't made under slave labour or child labour, those sorts of things are starting to impact. Now, ethical, again, you could connect this with the cultural differences. However, when we're talking about ethics, we tend to talk about the ethics within our own country. And you'll consider things like intellectual property, patents. So do you have the right to it? Are you stealing someone's idea? Also, you might consider safety as an ethical thing. Would you make a child's toy that comes apart easily and is easily swallowed by a one-year-old? Depends on your ethics. Some places will. And they get stopped at the border. Entrepreneurial activity. This is usually individuals who are willing to take risks financially. They're the people that back ideas. Richard Branson, the owner of Virgin, is an example of an entrepreneur. It's not really a design that he backed, but he took a risk with a single record released in the 70s called Tubular Bells. His entire fortune was based on the fact that that record was a massive seller. But he took the risk and he backed it. And it's the same with some designs. Someone somewhere took the risk and backed major corporations to start up. So entrepreneurial activity will affect the ability for a design to even come to life, and particularly a new design, one that doesn't necessarily have a market. And of course, timing. Is it too late or too early? We mentioned it with trends, but there's a difference here. When I first started working here at Crestwood, I had what was called a PDA. Does anyone know what a PDA is? Yeah, it does connect to the internet. Yeah, it's a little portable device that was similar to what we know now as a tablet. They didn't really last for long. They came out, a few people bought them, some suckers like me bought one, thinking, yeah, this will be useful. Didn't seem that useful in the end, and they faded away. Then Apple went, hey, I've got this great new product. It's called an iPad. And for some reason, that was the right timing. It was a lot to do with the advent of Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi wasn't around with the PDAs, and 4G networks weren't around. Whereas a tablet came hand in hand with the timing of other products, and of course made it useful, made it successful. So timing is one of those things that it's really hard to predict. You know, it's a bit of a roll of the dice in that sense. But it's also the ability to see when the timing's right. Now, I'm just breaking up trends, culture, and ethics a bit here for you because it does have a whole lot of other avenues. When we're looking at trends, culture, and ethics, they all get guided by political situations, the social fabric of society at that time. Things which we deem socially acceptable now are totally different 40 years ago and in other countries. The environmental trend, the ethics of safety, and of course cultural trends, and we could mean popular culture here. You've got to remember that emerging technology in itself now has become a trend. It has become something which people believe they need. They need, or believe they need, the latest, greatest new emerging technology. And there's a whole market based on that. Then ethical. We change our ethical practices all the time. Things get banned, resources, materials that you can no longer use in a design. Also, some designs are considered unethical to create. So you look at things like nuclear devices. There's strict controls over that. They don't want anyone to be able to make them. And it's a lot to do with the ethics of it. Of course, we also have this issue of our emerging technologies breaching this quite quickly. You think of the internet and what's happened with that, the ability to network and social media, that's a design, it's a system. Social media, it's a system that's upsetting a lot of governments and media organisations. So for them, politically, that's not very good. But ethically, some people might say it's the greatest thing ever, it's a freedom. So you do get these sorts of questions to ponder. Now, emerging technology, I've done it in this little circle with design because designs lead to emerging technologies. And emerging technologies allow for designs. So it's a bit of a chicken and the egg argument. You just have to realise that the interrelationship is there. It can go both ways. You consider the fact that the 3D printer may allow for the more successful printing of a more efficient 3D printer. To give you the chicken and the egg. Where does it start? So emerging technology, its impacts, allows for new products and production processes. That's probably the key point to it. It can become a design in itself and can have social, environmental implications. So you think of your identity, your privacy. What are the implications on you with a lot of emerging technologies? You no longer can hide, disappear, if you're going to be connected to the network. Also, we tend to keep wanting new technologies, which means we build in obsolescence. So we get a whole lot of redundant technology or devices that are put where? Where do they go? Some are recycled, a lot aren't. So we're pretty much making a whole lot of junk for the future. Now, innovation, this is a hard one to sort of grasp in some ways because what is innovation? It's that ability to add something new, pretty much. Take a new angle on things. But what affects a designer to be able to innovate? What creates a context for innovation? And what I mean by context is it's a situation where innovation can occur. And it can come down to the personal aspects of the designer, their skill, experience, and creativity. But it also can come into the idea of funding, resources, and technology. So you get all of these abilities, or I shouldn't say abilities, you get all of these aspects that will affect the ability for innovation to occur. Now, I've just stopped short on this one because you've literally got this in front of you, but I just started it as an example. The design process, you've been living the design process the past half a year or so. You've gone out, you've done research, you've established a need, you've defined the need, you've established a criteria for success, you've put into place project management strategies. Well, some of you have. You've looked at work health and safety issues or ethical issues or even factors affecting the design. If you remember looking at that in your folio, all of this is content that you can be questioned on. The handbook for your folio pretty much outlines all of this. You should be familiar with it by now. And also analysing design success or evaluating design success. Now these are just a few things. I didn't put all of it up because it's sort of repeating itself in that sense. But what you need to keep in mind with this is that your folio is about 50% of the design theory. If you go look into the syllabus, you'll see that the folio is mentioned for almost half the dot points. And an exam for the HSC and the trials can only come from those dot points in the syllabus. They can't just arbitrarily go, let's ask a question about 3D printing. They'd have to explain what 3D printing was or ask a question where 3D printing could be the answer, but isn't the only answer. So the presumed knowledge is those dot points, is your experience with the design folio. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to be uploading all of this for Year 11. I actually combine Year 11 with Year 12 content on purpose. So I'm going to post those to you as well. Now you don't have to watch all of them. This is pretty much getting to the bare bones, and you notice that if you go now to your textbook and start reading through it, you go, oh, I can see how it's connecting to this part. You can see how this part is related to another chapter or another page. When you read the textbook just straight, it often feels like it's repeating itself in spots. I don't know if anyone's done that yet, but you may have encountered that. And that's because it's not really laid out in this idea of just interrelationships between the design success and everything around it. So that's the best way of focusing yourself on the questions, is consider these aspects. The exam itself, there's been a change. You still get 10 multiple choice questions. In this case, they're going to be from easy to difficult. The Board of Studies just released a memo saying that this year's HSC exams, any multiple choice questions are going to be sequenced from the easiest question to the hardest question. So you should know where you might have to think a little harder. You have short answers worth 15 marks and a single, notice this, a single 15-mark extended response. They changed this for design and technology this year. It used to be an extended response broken into 2 sections. It's not anymore. You're going to be writing a single extended response. Yes?
So it goes for how long?
An hour and a half. Yeah. Now, a single extended response would equate to about 600 words, 4 pages, to give you an idea. That's one of those booklets that you get in the exam. If you write more, that's great. You're probably covering yourself. You write less, you probably know that you're not quite hitting the mark. But that's not necessarily true. This is taking into account different writing styles, the ability for students to use language really well. They're not really marking your literacy. but they're marking your ability to clearly show that you understand the question and your answer. So some people may be a little more eloquent in the way they write things. So keep that in mind. I did put up how to do answers for design and technology quite a while ago. If you remember that, how to break down a question, how to compose your answers in a way that is ensuring that you cover it. I'm going to do a few more that include a 15-mark question over the next few weeks too. This isn't for this exam, but more for your HSC exam. So, is there any questions? Because this is being recorded and it means that we can put these answers up there if you want. Yep.
So our trial paper will be in this structure.
Your trial paper will be in exactly this structure because the trial paper has to mimic your HSC. Otherwise, it's a bit pointless. Any other questions?
Right, so that's transferring the HSC style.
Correct. Yep. Now, the short answer is worth 15 marks. That can be broken up in between 3, 4, 5 questions of different marks. Yeah? No? I thought you had a question there.
I know with art they changed the actual HSC papers this year so that you don't have the two questions, you have the booklet with the questions and the answers to just one whole thing. Is design and technology just two points?
You'll get the exam with space to write your answers in the exam.
Yeah.
Then you'll have a booklet to write your extended response.
Okay.
Okay, answer. All right.